Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. It's been a super busy year for me, and I'm finally here with my list of the best games of 2022. This year has been filled with many ups and just as many downs, and much the same can be said for the AAA games industry. It really wasn't their best year. But as far as the overall gaming landscape of 2022, it's been pretty spectacular. There are so many unique and memorable titles, as you'll see in just a moment. The indie game development community in particular has just steamrolled us with one great game after another. It's really impressive. So I would love to go over with you my top 20 games of the year, but before I do that, here are a few honorable mentions. I will start with Trek to Yomi. This is a gritty side-scrolling samurai adventure developed by Flying Wild Hog. The combat was engaging, but the real selling point was the incredible black and white aesthetics and paired with some creative cinematography. It really does feel like you're inside a Akira Kurosawa filming experience, such as the legendary Seven Samurai. Next on my honorable mentions list will be Supermassive Games' The Quarry. I'm an absolute sucker for the interactive drama style games. One should hope so since I'm working at Quantic Dream. Anyway, if you love their previous hit success, Until Dawn, this will be right up your alley, as it is very much a spiritual successor. There's a solid story with some meaningful narrative branching. But there were some characters that I just wasn't that keen on. And though the game looks beautiful, there are some individual characters that do fall in the uncanny valley. It is a bit distracting. Still, I did very much enjoy my time overall, and I do recommend it. It's also worth praising the multiplayer features and the movie mode options. Those are some wonderful quality of life improvements that sets the standard for that style of gaming. The third honorable mention goes to a game that I barely heard any talk about. That will be Warm Snow, developed by Bad Mud Studio. Is this a total Chinese ripoff of Hades? Yes, granted. But goddamn did I have a good time playing this roguelite. The hack and slash combat is intense and the boss fights are super memorable. And it's not like it doesn't have any unique ideas up its sleeve. I absolutely love the flying sword mechanics. And holy crap did I button mash in this game. I actually button mashed so hard that I actually had to massage my hand for a week after. God damn. So please don't underestimate this game and do give it a shot if you're interested. There are plenty of unique ideas here, even if it is a bit unpolished, and admittedly the English translation is atrocious. And as my final choice on the honorable mentions list, I'm going to go with Infernax, a 2D Metroidvania style game developed by Berserk Studio. This is so obviously a love letter to the old Castlevania games. It's clever and is definitely one of the hardest games you'll play all year long. It is unfortunate that we haven't heard much noise about this game in 2022. I imagine that the difficulty pushed away a lot of people. Easily could have made the top 20, but there you have it. As you'll see, the list is pretty stacked with awesome games. Now, on to the top 20 games of 2022. We're going to start the list with a game that literally kicked off the year for me. That will be Nobody Saves the World, developed by Drinkbox Studio. This is a hilarious, cute, and super weird action RPG. You are this featureless nobody who has the ability to transform into a wide variety of character classes. This yields a boatload of variety, and it's even more fun to discover how they all play in their own unique ways. The mechanics are quite simple to get into, so it's just a blast to just dive in and enjoy the madness of it all. At number 19, I have Vampire Survivors, a game that I see reaching the top of the list for many people, which honestly, I totally understand it. This is easily the most simple, the most fun, and most fiendishly addictive game I played all year long. For crying out loud, God of War Ragnarok came out, and instead of playing that behemoth, I was stuck in an endless loop of Vampire Survivor runs. If that doesn't convince you of the game's staying power, I don't know what will. Regardless where you find it on any list, there's no denying that it's a smash hit and a defining gameplay experience of 2022. And it's even cooler to know that this was developed by one man. At number 18, we have the beloved Stray. I'm not a cat lover myself. Not against cats, of course, I love all animals. But that being said, this game made me fall head over heels in love with this cat avatar. It's so cute, I can hardly stand it. Putting the cuteness aside for a moment, if that's even possible, Stray has an incredible art direction for this dystopian world, certainly a contender for one of the visual wonders of the year. There's also a solid adventure to be had here, even if the game is a little bit bare bones. Next up at number 17, I have Cult of Lamb, developed by Massive Monster. Yet another game with a cuteness overload with those innocent woodland creatures you save, only this time it is mixed in with some truly disturbing demonic cult themes. The art direction is so memorable, it makes those eye-poppingly disturbing demonic cult rituals that much easier to swallow. absolutely love the twist on the social simulation style of gaming, as well as the cool addition of a hack and slash and roguelike elements into the game. It's a small game that does a lot of things with great success. And once again, the art style is to die for. Unfortunately, quite literally for our indoctrinated followers. Yeah, that will never not be disturbing to say. Don't let the cute aesthetics fool you. And diving deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of disturbing video game content, at number 16 we have the undisputed king of gruesome, disturbing game content with Scorn, developed by Ebb Software. The reception indeed has been very mixed with this game, and frankly, I can sympathize. If the slow death march pace of this game doesn't bore players to death, then the cryptic puzzle design with zero hand-holding whatsoever will finish off whatever patience remained for those players. Once again, I understand where they're coming from. As for my part, I think this is one of the most potent artistic achievements of the year. The puzzles, though perplexing and seemingly impenetrable, are incredibly satisfying once you wrap your head around it. But the real star of the show is the world building. It is awe-inspiring. H.R. Giger and Zdzisław Beksiński would be proud. This truly is a phenomenal art direction achievement. It is a game that defies a lot of expectations, and granted, it has its fair share of flaws, but my god, you won't see anything like this, not only of this year, but just in the last 10 years of gaming. I find it impossible to shake from my memory. Love it or hate it, in my mind, this is one of the most remarkable games of 2022. Next, we have a game that will rank probably a lot higher on other lists. As for my part, I'm placing Horizon Forbidden West at number 15. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I've never been the biggest Horizon fan. Sure, there's plenty of quality content here, without question, but I always felt like the combat was more frustrating than it is fun. And as far as the open world design, I feel it takes a lot of ideas from the Ubisoft template. Luckily for them, it is literally the best version of that cookie cutter template, by far. But even with those annoyances, I find the world building to be simply breathtaking. Guerrilla has built an incredible world history here, and with the sequel, they've added quite a lot of new and interesting characters to the mix. From what I gathered, I think a lot of people were annoyed by the never-ending character dialogue options you had in conversations, but as for my part, I think these are the moments where the game shines the most with its world building and character development. Much more so than the linear main quest narrative, in my opinion. Once again, I may be in the minority here. And as far as the graphics go, good lord, this game looks phenomenal. All the character models look immaculate. Even the optional NPCs look better than most hero avatars from other AAA games. It is simply phenomenal. Sometimes I would have a hard time concentrating on the dialogue because I was just so enamored with the costumes and all the details. But even so, I think the real selling point here is the environment. Simply put, it is mandatory homework for all level artists. At number 14, we have one of my most anticipated games of the year. That will be A Plague Tale Requiem, developed by Asobo Studio. Even with a rather admittedly rough start to the game, it takes about a third of the game for it to start building up steam, but at that point the game spreads its wings in surprising ways. This is a shockingly ambitious and grandiose sequel to a comparatively minimalist and humble beginning with the original game. A Plague Tale Requiem has some of the most epic set pieces of any game this year. The vistas are to die for. The chase sequences are exhilarating, and the giant waves of rats are awe-inspiring in their terror. Perhaps the game does oversaturate the overall experience with some rinse and repeat stealth and combat gameplay sequences, but the beating heart of the game remains with its cast and characters. Hugo and Amitsa have a hell of a journey in this game, and both actors give top-notch performances, easily among the best voice acting performances you'll hear in any game this year. To add, the graphics are insane. Perhaps a little too insane, it feels like they're punching above their weight. Personally, I had a very smooth experience on the Xbox Series X, but the PC performance has been incredibly choppy, even on a very solid machine. The game definitely has its flaws, but in the grand scheme of things, it is an unforgettable experience. Definitely a standout of the year. Next, at number 13, I gotta put Bayonetta 3. I think there was a moment where we were all worried about the future of Platinum Games, especially with that belly flop of a game with Babylon's Fall, but luckily Bayonetta 3 turned out to be exactly the kind of blistering firecracker of a game, let's face it, we all knew and hoped it would be. Combat system is among the best of its entire genre, and as far as the weapon designs, it is simply unmatched. S-tier god level weapon design. You will not believe the kind of weapons you'll be using in this game. It's a monumental iteration upon the series and defies any expectations anyone could have possibly had. The addition of unique summons is welcome as well, adding even more excitement to the crazy action and combo sequences, even if it does cover a bit too much of the screen. Yes, it's an incredibly exciting game to play. There are so many boss battles and so many twists and turns that you won't see coming, your head will be spinning by the end of it. The main thing holding Bayonetta 3 back from true greatness is the Nintendo Switch itself, which feels like it's really reaching the limit of what it can do. Still, the end result is undeniably one of the most kick-ass games of 2022. At number 12, arguably the best roguelike game of 2022. That would be Rogue Legacy 2, developed by Cellar Door Games. This is one of the most addicting and fun games I played all year long. The temptation to go for one more run is damn near impossible to resist, and who could blame you? Each run always feels fun and fresh to play due to the solid base gameplay and to the incremental improvements to your meta progression. But when you add on top all the variety of the different classes that play completely differently from each other, and the random traits you get that could be either a blessing or a curse, you have a brilliant game loop that is irresistible to play. I also adore the wacky sense of humor Rogue Legacy 2 has. There's a barrel full of laughs to be found here. Indeed, this game has a near limitless amount of fun and laughs to be had. Almost at the top 10. Honestly, this game here was a runner-up for the top 10 spot. These lists are always super challenging to make. So I think this is a good moment to remind you that all these games on this list, wherever they are found, they are all awesome in their own unique ways. So let's simply just rejoice that we get to play any of these games throughout this year. It's been a rough year, so these really have been a boon to my life. Now, back on track. The game at number 11 is a game that too few people have been talking about. That would be Signos, a game developed by Roast Engine, a duo indie team from Germany who made an absolute gem. This game is the perfect love letter for those who love the classic style of survival horror games from the PS1 era. It has all the common characteristics of that genre, as well as having a very unique art aesthetics and this art house experimental approach to that style of gaming that adds quite a bit of new ideas. I love everything about the qualities of the visual presentation in Signos. Those anime pixel art cutscenes with the cryptic narrative you're trying to unpack and the layers of glitched out noise are like nothing you've seen in 2022. The puzzles are also some of the best I've seen all year long. They're unique and never repeat themselves throughout the playthrough. This might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for my part, this is exactly what the doctor ordered, and a most unexpected surprise. This one really flew under a lot of people's radar, and it's a shame. Finally, at the top 10. Honestly, I count myself blessed with just half of the games in this top 10 list. But no, we get bulldozed with 10 phenomenal gaming experiences that will be reaching the top of the list of any other year. And notice how many of these games are AAA games. To start at the top 10, I got one of the coolest games of the year. That would be none other than Rollerdrome, developed by Roll7. This arena shooter has some wicked tricks up its sleeve, pun totally intended. With its Tony Hawk rollerblade navigation mechanics, with a match made in heaven with Doom-like high-paced gunplay at a blistering speed. It's a crazy mashup of genres that results in one of the most epic gunfu action you'll see in any game this year. The action is so hot, it's just flying off the charts. Add on top the ability to perfect dodge for some epic slow-motion gunplay for an even more effective and stylish finisher. Honestly, this shit is so far it would make Keanu Reeves from Matrix and John Wick fame blush. Though it's an extremely challenging game, it's supremely satisfying once you start to master the combat and navigation mechanics. You truly feel like you become a Rollerdrome champion. At that point, the game becomes pure ecstasy and blows most of the action competition out of the arena. As if all that weren't enough, there is a very solid world-building job done here. It leaves a lot to the imagination, but the bits and pieces of mise-en-scène that are sprinkled throughout those short narrative interludes paint a fascinating dystopian world. And yes, it is unfortunate that Rollerdrome got totally snubbed at the Game Awards. I guess there will always be that one game that goes completely under the radar. Their loss and our gain for the cult fandom. As far as I'm concerned, Rollerdrome is a nuclear bomb of cool and deserves every drop of praise it gets. At number 9, we have yet another indie sensation, this time with Tunic. Can you believe that this game was developed by one man, Andrew Schuldice, and 6 years later it's still able to hold its weight with some of the best games of the year? You better believe it. Of course, Andrew got support from collaborators along the way, but still, he kept the beating heart of this passion project alive all those years, and it turned out to be a stunning success story. Hopefully, this will be a source of inspiration for many to come. This is 100% a leveler to the classic style of Legend of Zelda games such as A Link to the Past, and features a healthy amount of Souls-like influence into the game. But to simplify as just that will be a great disservice. Tunic has some of the most clever exploration I've had the pleasure of immersing myself all year long. I find it refreshing that there aren't any traditional puzzles as you'd expect in this kind of game. Instead, the puzzle is really the world and you just trying to figure out what the mechanics and game rules are like. Because this is a game that does zero hand-holding and nothing is explained to you. It takes a while to wrap your head around things, but once you do stumble upon a new discovery, it will turn on the light bulb in your head to try and experiment in ways that you did not think were possible before. A massive contributing factor to those discoveries is that Nintendo Power-like in-game manual you have. In my mind, this is one of the most genius and beloved inventions in games this year. Not only is it nostalgic and beautiful to look at, but it's filled with valuable gameplay information that you have to kind of decipher. It's extremely gratifying once you figure it out. It's so simple but brilliant in its execution. It simultaneously nurses your curiosity and your thirst for exploration and experimentation in the game. It's also worth noting that even though the game is a very cute art style, especially when it comes to that adorable fox avatar you play, my god is he cute. But the game features some surprisingly challenging combat. Don't let the cute art style lull you into thinking that this is a game for kids. It's no pushover. Even so, there's no denying that this is one of the chillest worlds to explore due to the pleasing art style and to the blissfully calming and relaxing music. At number 8, we have one of the most badass games of the year. Sifu, developed by Slowclap, is an absolute must-play for fans of classic martial arts films. It takes inspiration from the best old-school Jackie Chan flicks, and by now everyone has heard of that homage paid to that incredible hallway scene from Oldboy that has been reproduced in this game. Though there are just a few levels in Sifu, they're all quite memorable, they're varied in their visual aesthetics, and have a great sense of progression. The art direction really goes a long way to give each level a unique sense of visual aesthetic, and the colors are just so vibrant. There are also moments where the game's atmosphere transforms into something rather surreal and art house. Sifu is more than just a beat-em-up game. But of course, at the core of all is a brutal challenge. Sifu is easily one of the hardest games of 2022, where even the most basic enemy can pulverize you in no time. Arguably the biggest innovation that this game brings to the table would be the death counter, which adds compounding effect with each consecutive death. It's also a wicked aesthetic idea where you see your avatar age with each consecutive death. With the impenetrable wall of difficulty comes an opportunity to master the game. It feels absolutely euphoric when you defeat an entire room of enemies without getting hit once. It takes a lot of practice, and you will get your ass handed to you over and over again. But once you wrap your head around the mechanics, you become an unstoppable killing machine. The coolest thing about all this, it's not the character himself that levels up with a higher strength stat, for example. No, it's you that levels up. You get better. It's supremely satisfying. As a final comment, maybe I do have mixed feelings about the final boss. I can't seem to agree if this is an interesting way of breaking the rules, or if this just defies everything you learned thus far in your playthrough up until the end of the game. Regardless, I persevered and it was glorious. What a badass game. Number 7, As Dusk Falls, developed by Interior Night. As I said earlier, I'm a sucker for the interactive drama style of gaming. And this has easily become not only my favorite of the year, but one of my favorite of all time at this point. Perhaps it is a little bit too simple mechanically, but it more than makes up for it with some outstanding drama. The writing is sharp, and the characters all feel authentic, though by far the most notable part of the game are the intense narrative choices you have to make. With As Dusk Falls, expect to make tough choices where you're never sure what the consequences will be. And with a limited amount of time to make that choice, or have the game make the choice for you in your hesitation. It's riveting from beginning to end and features some of the best narrative branching I've seen in a while. I don't know about you guys, but I got really invested in this story. It's also a visually arresting gaming experience. It really feels like a beautiful concept art library coming to life. Just wow. Yeah, I still can't get over those 0 out of 10 reviews which called this game a slideshow PowerPoint presentation. In my humble opinion, with all due respect, fuck those criticisms. This game looks amazing. It's nothing short of a work of art. And the drama is exhilarating with some truly meaningful choices to make. Oh, and did I mention that this is the first game from Interior Night? Yeah, these guys have a bright future ahead of them. I can't wait for the next chapter of this game, whenever that will be. Take your time, guys. At number 6, we have by far the most disturbing game of the year. Is it a horror game? Not really, but at times it sure feels like it. This would be Immortality, Sam Barlow's latest FMV style of game developed by Half Mermaid. Immortality has a very unique premise at hand, with nothing to guide you except for your curiosity to unravel the mystery at hand. Essentially, you're presented with a question: what happened to Marissa Marcel? Then you're left to dig through raw footage of 3 unreleased Marissa Marcel films to uncover why these films never saw the light of day. It's fascinating to see the story of the film itself and the behind the scenes footage combined to create a larger picture. Layer on top that we have 3 films to dig through, and you begin to find common threads that link the 3 films together. But of course, nobody's going to explain that for you. It's all on you to make those connections with that magic eye mechanic where whenever you click on a character's face or on a prop in the scene, it will bring you to a random footage of any of the 3 films with that exact same face or prop. Once you get invested in the experience, you will undoubtedly go down the rabbit hole, flying through a bunch of different time periods. It's fascinating, if not completely disorienting. Immortality rides along a knife's edge between those 2 states. Things get even more bizarre when, or rather, if you even discover that there's a secret layer underlining all 3 films. At that point, you get thrown even deeper down the rabbit hole of one of the darkest and most experimental games of the whole year. Is this a game that a lot of people will absolutely hate playing? Probably, and frankly, I can sympathize. It's an eerie, disturbing, and a rather sickening gameplay experience unlike anything else this year. It's a scathing portrayal of the film industry's misogyny and sexual abuse, and at times it's damn near pornographic. Anyway, I really have to praise the acting prowess of Manon Gage as Marissa Marcel. She gives an electrifying performance in what is essentially 3 different films. It was a hell of a performance, and I just couldn't take my eyes off her. Even though Manon Gage is the star of the show, the rest of the cast is equally great. Really an all-around powerhouse acting crew. It's strange because I know that none of this is real, yet I really feel like I was poring over authentic film footage and not watching actors acting like actors. Finally, I was thrilled and rather amazed to see Immortality get a lot of praise and even award nominations at the Game Awards. And there were major categories like Best Direction, Best Performance, and Best Narrative. 500% deserved, and I hope more people give this a shot. It is deeply disturbing, but unforgettable. Top 5. At number 5, we have Norco, a game developed by Geography of Robots. Love that name. Anyway, Norco is a landmark in point-and-click adventures, and is one of the most potent dystopian cyberpunk world-building efforts I've had the pleasure in immersing myself in quite a while. This indie darling tackles a lot of dark themes with remarkable grace and nuance in its relatively short runtime, anywhere in the neighborhood of 6 hours. The writing is evocative and perfectly captures the melancholy of the dystopian landscape of a futuristic industrial swampland in South Louisiana. Norco may very well be the most beautiful poetic gaming experience I've had in 2022. And as an unexpected bonus, Norco has quite the talent for comedy. You really wouldn't expect it from such a depressing world to have some genuine heartfelt laughs. But the contrast is perfectly executed. It's a fragile balancing act to get right, but the writing talent here is top tier. This is equally a gorgeous game visually and sets a new benchmark for pixel art gaming aesthetics. The environments are richly detailed and deeply layered. At times, I was more than happy to leave the game running to just observe the work put into this game's world. Truly, every frame in this game is like a painting. Paired with the incredible art direction, Norco has some of my favorite soundtracks of the year. It's calming, mysterious, and perfectly nurtures this environment for philosophy and thought-provoking moments with its dark themes. I feel like a lot of people have been totally sleeping on this game. It's one of the best indie games of the year that rivals gaming giants with its potent narrative and eccentric world building. It's simply breathtaking, and it's criminal that its praise has largely gone unsung. So here's my 2 pesos to remind you that this slow burn, experimental, art house indie game experience is absolutely unmissable. At number 4, we have a game that initially I wasn't sure I was going to play. It's not the kind of style of game I usually explore, but thank God I kept an open mind and gave it a shot. It really reminds me of last year's Inscription, yet another game that also at first glance I thought, you know what, really doesn't seem like my kind of game, but ended up being one of the absolute best games of that year. Alright, enough foreplay. The game I'm talking about is none other than the speed demon himself, Neon White, developed by Angel Matrix. Holy shit, this game is an absolute blast. No other game this year has given me such an adrenaline rush as Neon White. The levels are super short, averaging anywhere between 30 and 60 seconds in length, but those short rapid-fire levels give an astonishing amount of depth and replayability to experiment and have fun with the levels. You get to master the level, learn it by heart, and perfect your run to get faster and faster and faster and faster. It's an insane breakneck pace that the game goes at. Hot damn. I gotta say, this may be just the most creative game I played all year. Nothing this year comes anywhere close to what Neon White achieves. It's a wild mashup of genres. Speedrunning, first-person shooting, car building, where you get to use unique weapons, and they also double as powers for unique navigation mechanics. Oh yeah, and those optional levels feel like they were developed by a mad scientist level designer for these fever dream navigation puzzles. The only detriment to this game is the narrative itself, which feels like a near hentai experience for thirsty teenagers. Yeah, it's a bit much. The redeeming quality is that the art direction is quite solid for those narrative moments and for the in-game levels themselves. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that the soundtrack made by Machine Girl is absolute fire. What a game. We're at the top 3. Alright, 2 of these games probably won't come as a surprise to anyone, but one of them will likely be a bit of a hot take. But it's my list, so fuck it, I can do whatever I want. Besides, at this point, the top 3, the games are so good they're just interchangeable. Whichever one you pick, you're in for a great time. Let's just once again be grateful that we are blessed with these kind of gaming experiences. Alright, without further delay, number 3 goes to God of War Ragnarok, developed by Santa Monica Studios. Santa Monica's long-awaited sequel lives up to the hype and then some. What can I say that hasn't already been echoed by the entire gaming community at this point? The gameplay is just as visceral and engaging as it ever was. Only this time, we have even more content and more enemy variety than ever before. And visually, Ragnarok is nothing short of spectacular. Jaw-dropping visas are frequent here, and not a single facet of the art direction hasn't received a minute attention and loving care. All of the environments are varied and gorgeous in their own unique ways, and the character models may just be the most impressive achievement in video game character development to date. The details in their faces, weapons, and armors are just awe-inspiring. Truly an all-around state-of-the-art powerhouse of a game, which makes it all the more astounding that this game is as flawless technically as it is. Barely any bugs to speak of in a 50-hour game and a rock-solid frame rate. It is a pristine, god-tier level of technical polish in an era of AAA games coming out shamefully broken and unpolished. Though perhaps above all of that, the one thing that will be remembered the most fondly about God of War Ragnarok long after its time in the sun would be the heartfelt narrative arc of Kratos and Atreus. This is one for the history books and will go down in history as one of the gaming titans. It's a package deal that shows the world what the AAA games industry is truly capable of when they get their shit together. Cue a thunderous roar of applause. Alright, now for my hot take. My number 2 game is Rainbow Six Extraction. No, of course it isn't. Shots fired, I know. But jokes aside, is anyone playing this game? Anyways, I still love all my fellow coworkers back when I was on that project. Anyway, no trolling this time. My real number 2 spot goes to Pentiment, developed by Obsidian Entertainment. That super niche game that most people will probably hate, personally absolutely blew me away. I think it is sensational. Pentiment features industry best writing talent, with nuanced dialogue tackling complex moral relationships between yourself, Andreas Mahler, the farmers, and the priests at the Abbey. What you say, or even omit to say, ends up having considerable repercussions in ways you won't see coming. Indeed, Pentiment is a shining example of that traditional style of role-playing games where it's not about the combat, instead it is a terrifically nuanced approach to dramatic discourse. I was riveted from beginning to end and was absolutely floored by some of the consequences due to my actions. I truly believe that this is a classic in the making, even if a lot of people don't see it right now. The writing alone is enough to catapult Pentiment to the top of my list, but add on top an incredible art direction and a potent soundtrack that kicks in just when it's needed, you have the recipe for a truly devastating narrative experience. It's remarkable that a major studio like Obsidian had the stones to make a left turn as they did here, and it's something that I applaud, and they deserve every bit of praise for it. Giant blockbusters are fantastic, look no further than some of the games on this list. But we need to support more developers to nurture these kind of passion projects because the results can be pretty fucking phenomenal. And here we are, the top of the food chain, the game of the year for 2022. This comes to no surprise to anyone unless you've been living under a rock all year long. The number 1 spot goes to the grand champion, Elden Ring, developed by From Software. Much like with God of War, what can I say that the gaming community hasn't already echoed all year long? It's a universally beloved game that set an impossibly high bar quite early in the year. Without a doubt in my mind, this is one of the most ambitious games of the year. It's a colossal game, yet somehow none of it feels like filler. It's a remarkable achievement considering that this is From Software's first real foray into open world style gaming. It's outstanding just how well the Soulsborne genre fits perfectly in the open world. It really is a match made in heaven. What's even more impressive is how Elden Ring defies standard operating procedures of open world designs. Gone is the overly cluttered HUD UI. What remains is a rather simplistic UI that allows the player not to be distracted by a bunch of dynamic icons, but to just focus on what is in front of them and to explore their curiosity. Elden Ring has many outstanding qualities, but perhaps my most cherished aspect of it is this wondrous sense of exploration. I was in absolute rapture discovering this game for the first time. I honestly wish I could just mind wipe and relive this experience again. It's an absolutely mesmerizing world to get lost in, with an ethereal and mystical atmosphere. It's simply peerless in its scope and grandiose design. The visual compositions are some of the most striking I've ever seen in any game or film. I am not exaggerating. I won't ramble on forever, I think you get the point. Everything about this game screams epic. And this of course goes the same for the larger-than-life boss battles. From Software is still the king in that regard. And on that note, it truly is impressive on just how much of a winning streak From Software is on, and they show no sign of slowing down. Additionally, given the brutal difficulty that still remains in Elden Ring, with their latest game, they've opened the door to a lot of non-Souls gamers. I can't tell you how many friends of mine who are game developers and hardcore gamers themselves never really got into those games, but with Elden Ring, they just fell head over heels in love with it. Rather than developers going for a quick and dirty, easy mode, From Software has done something much more clever. They've given the players multiple playstyles, interesting level design solutions, where the previous games did not. It really boggles my mind that From Software took a super brutal, hard-as-nails, niche genre and catapulted it into a pop culture gaming phenomenon. If that doesn't warrant it being a Game of the Year, I don't know what does. And there you have it. Those are the games I consider to be the best games of 2022. It was a big year for gaming, as you can see, and 2023 looks already stacked. I don't know how I'm gonna have time to play all these games, but I will do my best. I guess I'll just have to pick and choose. Before closing this video, here are a few games that I didn't get to play in 2022 that probably are worth checking out. Return to Monkey Island, I just chose to rest and do other things. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a massive 150-hour RPG that I'm sure I would love, but I just didn't find the time to invest in, which is kind of ironic since I am currently plowing through Final Fantasy XIV, which is arguably quadruple the size and length. I wish I were exaggerating. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, easily the best Ubisoft title to come out in years, and the same can be said for the previous game, which I absolutely loved. Ollie World, I love what the devs did for Rollerdrome, obviously as you guys have just seen, and unfortunately I didn't have time to get around to this one, so hopefully in the near future I'll give it a taste. And finally, the Callisto Protocol. I am disappointed to hear how it came out, but at the very least, visually, it looks phenomenal. So perhaps I'll pick it up when it's on a big discount or something and put it on easy mode to just bypass the really frustrating combat. Well, we'll see. Now, it hasn't been quite a year since I started this YouTube channel, but I want to take a moment to truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for watching my videos. 242 subscribers, at least today as I'm recording this video. Maybe chump change for other YouTubers, but for me, that's a lot, and I feel blessed to have you all. I still have a lot to learn, but I feel like I'm slowly gaining my momentum. Obviously, some technical setups will need improvements, and so on and so forth. That'll come with time. I also want to say that I do see all your comments, though I am a bit socially awkward to reply to you all. I will make an effort to at least do it from time to time in waves. I really do keep busy. It's not like I'm just doing this YouTube channel. And on that note, I will never be able to do this full time because my main job is that of a game developer. I'm a level designer. But I do promise myself that at least once a week I'll come out with a video. So today we're at video number 54, one day we'll be at video 100, then video 666, and eventually one day video 10,000. That'll be the day. And until then, once again, I really am grateful for all the love and positive feedback I've gotten from you guys. So with all that being said, that is all for today. I got my final year-end video coming up. That's the best films of 2022. I might delay that a bit because there's still a few films that are, at least one that I'm waiting to see in cinema that still hasn't released here in Montreal time. Anyways, I don't want to rush these videos because I do enjoy doing them and they do take quite a bit of time and preparation to do. Anyways, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. And until next time, take care, wishing you and your family nothing but the best. Bye now.